The Indianapolis 500 always has amazing stories. During the month of May since its inception in 1911. 108 races have been held for the past 114 years and counting, with never-ending, iconic, and exciting racing for the biggest day in racing on Memorial Day weekend. 75 drivers have won the Indianapolis 500 at least once since 1911. In this episode, we are going to be talking about the man who not only won the very first Indy 500, but changed the safety of the early parts of American open-wheel racing and the automotive industry. Let's take a look on the story of Ray Harroun on his early days, his time in racing, and his retirement. With that being said, the 66th episode of Racing Stories is now underway. Let's begin. Ray Wade Harroun was born on January 12, 1879 from Spartanburg, Pennsylvania, in a small Amish community while living in a small farm. Harroun was the youngest child with three sisters alongside with mother Lucy A. Halliday and father Russell Lafayette Harroun, who was a mill worker and also built their own home on Washington Street. From what I looked up at about his childhood, he had a difficult time in school, but hey, he would eventually graduate in high school. At the age of 17, Ray Harroun was being trained to become a dental technician, apprenticed to his brother-in-law. But in 1898, Ray Harroun would serve in the U.S. Navy for the Spanish-American War on a coal carrier, but he would be honorably discharged. The war would last 8 months. Ray Harroun, with a different career approach in the automotive industry, would move to Akron, Ohio, continuing his normal routine. In 1899, Ray Harroun would work on a square-rigged ship between South America and Europe. In his personal life, Ray Harroun would marry Evelyn Goifold on February 18, 1900, but then he would move to Chicago alongside with his wife to continue his dental education while working in a men's clothing store. While he was working with equipment, he'd realized that he was good with anything mechanical. That would not only be a life changer, but also a career changer. While in Chicago, the CEO of Montgomery Ward, William Thorne, would be acquainted with Ray and hired him as a chauffeur in 1902 while learning how to drive a car. Learning how to drive a car encouraged his interest in automobiles and eventually in racing. Later on, in 1902, he started to build his own cars. Ray Harroun would build a two-seat speedster, naming it the Harroun Special. Unfortunately, there are no pictures of the Harroun Special and nobody knows what happened to it ever since. Ray Harroun would finally get into the world of auto racing in 1903 by joining the race team to set a time-distance speed record from Chicago to New York, which would be 76 hours in the factory-sponsored Columbia-sponsored race, and again in 1904 with 58 hours and 35 minutes, which the record stood still for 2 years. At the time, reliability was the biggest issue in automobiles. In 1905, despite wanting to be a racing driver, he had no racing experience. Ray Harroun would build his own open-wheel track speedster, which was a two-long rail cradling, four-cylindered, engine amidships, a 1,000-pound speedster. The car would blow smoke and make huffing noises. Ray would nickname it the Harroun Sneezer. In 1906, Ray Harroun would be hired by the Buick Racing Team in Lowell, Massachusetts, which is managed by William Pickens, to be the testing driver for the team. Pickens saw potential in Harroun and hired him to be a team mechanic for drivers Louis Strang, Bob Berman, and Louis Chevrolet. Later on, in 1906, Ray Harroun would finally get a chance to go racing in Lowell, Massachusetts for the first time. He would finish second to Louis Chevrolet. From 1907 to 1908, Ray Harroun would continue to gain the experience and credibility to drive and race in various races for Buick and Marriott. It would also pilot in his lightweight speeder. It would also be hired by Nordyke and Marmon as a mechanic. Howard Marmon, who's a proven mechanical genius and auto manufacturer, would also see some potential in Harroun and his abilities, experience, and his work would earn him a promotion to company engineer. In 1909, Ray Harroun would race in AAA sanctioned series for the Marmon Racing Team. Originally, Martha Foster, who was one of the rising stars in racing, was forced to quit racing due to either the AAA supervisory ban on female drivers or she retired from racing so she could marry her boss, Howard Marmon. Ray Harroun would make his AAA Champ Car Series debut at the newly built Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the G&J Trophy race. Harroun would finish in third for that race and would race again at Indy for the Wheeler-Shebler's Trophy. Harroun would finish in third for that race and would race at Indy again for the Wheeler-Shebler Trophy race, finishing fifth, and he would race at Lowell, finishing second. 1910 would be a big year for Ray Harroun in the AAA sanctioned series. Nordyke and Marmon would build a Harroun-designed 447 CID 6-cylinder version of the engine by using a Harroun carburetor. Testing it at Atlanta, On the AAA Champ Car Series side, he would compete in 13 out of 19 races in the 1910 season, scoring his first win at the Atlanta Motordrome for the Atlanta Speedway Trophy. Harroun will go on to win 2 more races at Indianapolis for the Wheeler-Schiebler Trophy Race and race 1 at the Remy Brassard Trophy Race. As for the AAA National Series, Ray Harroun would race in 60 of them, winning 45 of them, earning himself the 1910 AAA National Championship, retiring from racing at the age of 31 to focus on his job, working as engineer at Marmon Automobile Company in Indianapolis. While retiring, Howard Marmon persuaded Ray Harroun to race at the inaugural 500-mile race in Speedway, Indiana. Come out of retirement and race one last time. Ray Harroun would have to think about it, and after putting in some thoughts, Ray Harroun decided to come out of retirement and race one last time. The inaugural Indianapolis 500 was around the corner, and Howard would allow Ray to build his own car for the race. Back in the day, you would have 2 people in a race car driver and a mechanic. However, Ray Harroun built his own race car, which would be revolutionary and change racing forever. Instead of having a 2-seater, he built a single-seater. The design was supposed to cut down the weight to make it more aerodynamic, sculpting it into a long, narrow bullet-like shape with a flared cocktail and the iconic pointed tail that acted like a stabilizer. The number 32 iconic car was colorized into mainly yellow with some black. A journalist would call the car Wasp. Harroun was starting 28th in a 40-car field for the 1911 International 500-mile sweepstake race. Before the race, other drivers protested that Harroun's car had no extra seat for the riding mechanic, so he added mirrors on brackets over the steering wheel. That way, he can see rear oncoming traffic. The inaugural International 500 at Indianapolis Motor Speedway was underway. Ray Harroun would start the race. However, on lap 64, Ray Harroun would be relieved by Cyrus Petshake for 35 laps. At the halfway point of the race, Ray Harroun would pass David Bruce Brown for the lead and would have an intense battle with Loisier driver Ralph Mulford. However, Ray Harroun would have to make a pit stop for new Firestone tires after blowing a tire. After Mulford made his pit stop, Ray Harroun would return to the lead. Speaking of tires, Ray Harroun would only pit 4 times just to get his right rear tire changed, while his 3 other tires had been remained the same since the start of the race. While other drivers were racing Ray for the lead, their tires blew. Ray Harroun would manage his tires for 6 hours, 42 minutes, and 8 seconds, lead 88 laps, and would be the first driver to win the Indianapolis 500, winning $14,250. After the race, there was controversy. Second place finisher Ralph Mulford protested and claimed that he was a third of a lap ahead of Ray Harroun, ending the race at 6 hours, 41 minutes, and 24 seconds, beating Harroun by 44 seconds. Even Fred Wagner agreed with Mulford and the Lozier team, but track president Carl Fisher overruled it 36 hours after the 500 ended, which meant Ray Harroun would officially win the inaugural Indianapolis 500 despite the public protest. Regardless, Ray Harroun would once again retire, but this time as the Indy 500 champion. In 17 USAC Champ Car starts, Ray Harroun would have 4 wins and 9 podiums. After the race, the iconic number 32 Wasp car would be banned from racing due to how advanced it was. After retiring from racing for good, he would continue to work on race cars and other technical businesses. In 1913, Ray Harroun would move to the racing team of Maxwell Company, which was a forerunner of the Chrysler Corporation, as an engineer in Michigan, when he would form his own company called Harroun Motors Corporation in Wayne, Michigan. Later in the year, Ray Harroun would design the Harroun carburetor for the 1919 Marmon 48. For the 1914 through 1915 season, Ray Harroun would build the Maxwell racing cars for those 2 seasons. In 1916, Ray Harroun planned to make affordable passenger cars, which sold 3,000 cars in the first 18 months. In the same year, Ray Harroun would also design an inexpensive and reliable roadster. However, he would soon enter a contract with the U.S. government to make equipment and munition for World War I. After the First World War, the company never recovered and folded in 1922. In 1923, the company's assets were sold off and the Gottfredson Truck Company would buy the factory in 1924, and Ray Harroun would join Lincoln Products in 1927. Throughout the 1930s and 1940s, while living in Saginaw, Michigan, Ray Harroun would innovate carburetors, patent a shock-absorbing steering wheel, and design a monoplane and low-slung cart to load bombs that were used in the Second World War. Harroun and a former Marmon engineer designed a vehicle which was a pre-built safety air car, which is similar to the modern motorhome. In the mid-1940s, Ray Harroun would work as an engineer for Chrysler and would move to Anderson, Indiana in the 1950s, being president of the Indy Old Timers Club, continuing to work in the automotive industry until he retired at the age of 79. In 1979, Ray Harroun Harroun would return to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the inaugural race, returning to his iconic number 32 Marmon Wasp. After AJ Foyt won the 1961 Indianapolis 500, Ray Harroun and AJ Foyt would both appear on the episode of I Got a Secret, which aired on June 7th, 1961. Unfortunately, on January 19th, 1968, just a week after his 89th birthday, Ray Harroun would sadly pass away in Anderson, Indiana. Despite the loss of Ray Harroun for over 6.5 decades, his legacy on track in the automotive industry still goes on. In 1952, he was inducted into the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Hall of Fame. It was inducted into the Motorsports Hall of Fame of America in 2010. Ray Harroun made an impact not only in the racing world, historically, but he would make an impact on the automotive industry, which changed the world forever, which would be incorporated by the automotive industry. You know that rear view mirror you have in your car? If it wasn't for Ray's advanced Indy 500 winning race car, there will be no mirrors at all in your vehicle. So that's going to do it for another episode of Racing Stories. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Ian, the Motorsports Man, signing off. Goodbye, everybody.